So welcome everyone to this fantastic webinar that we've arranged for the Kickstart employees. Hope you're all very excited. It's lovely to see you all here and ready, and thanks to the employers that persuaded you to join and reminded you to come along. So I'm just going to briefly introduce you to Emma and Kathy at 24 Fingers, who they very kindly agreed to help us with this, and they're experts in their subject. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to them, and they can spend a little bit more time introducing themselves and telling you what you're going to do today. But hopefully you'll enjoy it all.
Thanks, Mark. Emma, do you want to go first?
Yeah, hi guys. Brilliant to be with everybody this morning and or this afternoon now, or for any time that you're watching it. So today's session is about how to use LinkedIn for its best advantage. Just to give you a bit of background about Kathy and I. We are two peas in the pod. We have come together to form a company called 24 Degrees. We've both got our own individual businesses. Mine is a social media agency called 24 Fingers. Kathy is a brilliant business mentor with a business called LittlePiggy, and together we're 24 Degrees. And our mission in life is to help people from 17 to 17 beyond launch businesses and get more out of their digital marketing, make more profits, so turning their passion into profits. So that's me. Over to Kathy.
Yeah, so Emma's summed up pretty well what we do together. The thing that brings us together as 24 Degrees is the training that we do, because I've got a background of many years working in the education sector. And working with people who are transitioning out of education into employment, but also subsequent to that, I started my own business. So I've always had a passion for training and helping people achieve either the business or the employment that they actually want to achieve. So where Emma and I come together, she runs, as she said, her digital marketing agency. I run a business where I help people who are interested about starting a business to do that. But with our training, we work with people both thinking about starting a business or people wanting to work in other people's businesses, because a lot of the things that we cover with our training cross that divide. So what we're doing here today is we're going to be looking at LinkedIn with you. And I suppose it's probably not the most glamorous of the social platforms, and it will be interesting to know how many of you are on there already. But the thing about LinkedIn is that it is a platform that is developing continuously, and it's introducing a lot more functionality in terms of being a really useful platform. But for yourselves, the key thing about it is that it's a great place to be found and to be seen and to be active when you're looking to move into employment. You'll find people on there that can give you help and support and advice where you are now, but also people that will be there to help you when it comes time to getting into full-time employment yourself. So we want to give you as many hints and tips as we possibly can about using the platform, but we also want to cover some of the stuff around social generally, because we think there are some pitfalls that we'd like you to avoid, but also some good stuff we'd like you to do. Okay, so I think that's really where we're coming from. And as we've said already, ask us questions, post stuff in the chat. We will be getting you to do a couple of things as we go through as well. So just to get the little brain box going too. So yeah, don't hang back. Use us while we're here. Okay. Anything else you wanted to add in there, Emma?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So we might as well kick off.
Let's crack on. Got a lot to get through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Emma, do you want to go with this one?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So we know that 45 million people in the UK have got social media accounts. I'd love to know in chat which ones you've got. Pop into chat whether you're on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of them. Facebook, I know none of you will be on. The key about platforms from a personal and a business point of view is to know why you're on each platform. So in business, we talk to company owners and they say, you know, we need to be posting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat. No, you don't. It's really, really key to pick the platform where your customers are. So for example, if I'm working with a life coach, typically she's a woman, typically dealing with people that are kind of 35 upwards. Facebook is absolutely the right platform, as is LinkedIn. It's no point in her being on TikTok because the people on TikTok are not going to be able to afford her services. So it's about using her time really I never say the word wisely. I'm going to change the word to wisely. Using our time wisely and picking the platform that will get the best results from, basically, from our business.
Yeah, and I think when this comes into then in terms of jobs and employment, the number one place is LinkedIn, and we will say this as we go through. You are not unknown when you start posting on social media, and that where you may be interacting with a group of people, other people can often see that interaction. And so this is one of the things that we want to pick up on, particularly in terms of employability going forward. So I think it's important to be out there, and we'll show you why we think it is important to be out there. But we do want you to be wise as well. Have fun, but be wise.
So Olivia said she's on 4 of them, but she wishes she could delete all of them. So she's on 3 of them, but she wishes she could delete them. And I'm interested, Olivia, whether that's from a too much noise point of view, whether you feel like you're bombarded with social media, or whether it's that you prefer to be private. So answer that in chat if you don't mind, because that will help us steer the session. I'm actually running a webinar at the end of July about imposter syndrome for the people that don't like to show their faces on social media. So I'd be really interested to see what you think.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in here, one of the best decisions I made about 18 months ago, and I don't mean to give you shock and horror, but I actually turned the sound off on my phone. And you know what? I now choose to go to it and look at stuff rather than it coming at me all the time. And it's made a huge, huge difference. So yeah, it'll be interesting to know whether it's because of all of that that's going on rather than the actual platforms themselves.
Cool.
Okay.
So who's using LinkedIn? This session is going to focus on the business platform. So as you'd expect, it's people that are in business, it's people that run companies, it's people that work for themselves or their employees. There's 27 million users in the UK. In the olden days, and when I say olden days, I mean like last year, the split wasn't so even. We found that more men were using LinkedIn, more older people, and since it got bought by Microsoft a few years ago, it's really changed. So you'll now see viral posts on LinkedIn. You'll now see all the features that Facebook and Instagram have got. Every time Insta do a rollout of a new feature, LinkedIn jump on the back of it, getting much more engagement. So it's a platform that you ignore at your peril if you want to forge ahead in your career, find a job, or make yourself known in the industry that you want to be known at.
Yeah, and just to pick up on that, as Emma said, if you are going to remain in employment, your employers will be on here. There's no question about that. So potential employers, potential workmates, all of those people will actually be on this platform. So even if you use it simply as a research tool, and we will come on to that, it's valuable for that, even just on its own. Okay. So I'd be interested to know, when we say personal brand, or so we're talking about building your personal brand, do you know what we mean by that? You know, what is a personal brand? Pop that into chat, or let us know in some other way, because I think that we want to give you some general good practice in terms of social generally, but this does feed very directly into LinkedIn. But yeah, so let's think about your personal brand and what that actually means. And that ties in really closely to what Emma was just saying about the workshop that she's, you know, the seminar that she's running on imposter syndrome, because often people feel, I can't do this because maybe I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, or I haven't had as much experience as people, and that person over there seems to know so much more than I do. A lot of it's smoke and mirrors, folks, to be quite honest. So yeah, let's have a look at personal brand. So I think the first thing in terms of it when you're online, and again we'll pick up on this in a little while, it's about standing out online, but in the right way. There are lots of examples where people are standing out in the wrong way, and we'll share a few of those in the terms of don't do this. And I think that when we mean in the right way, there has to be an authenticity. Now, some of you may be worried, maybe concerned, or maybe think, actually, you know, who's going to listen to me? Why do my opinions matter? Well, actually, they do matter. You have got a voice, and, you know, flipping heck, you're going to be paying my pension in a few years' time. So yeah, you do really matter. So you know, as long as you're true to yourself and your beliefs, and personally, as long as you don't hurt anybody else, then, you know, your opinions are as valid as anybody's. And I think one of the things that you could and should be sharing is things that you're passionate about, or stuff that you've done, or experience that you've had. So Emma and I ran a training program for young girls recently, where the youngest was 13, and I mean, one of the things that she's done is she's doing her Duke of Edinburgh awards, and, you know, she's really passionate about what she's doing with that, and that's brilliant, and she's sharing that kind of stuff out. So, you know, by the time it comes to the point where she's ready to step out into the world of work, she'll have all of that sitting behind her. So don't if you love something, yeah, there'll be people out there saying, oh, maybe that's, you know, I don't like that. Fine, that's their choice. But make sure that you share things that really rock your boat. One of the things Emma and I say to everybody, and this may be just generally in terms of work or going forward, but some of you may have the spark at some point in the future and think, actually, you know what, I want to start my own business. What we recommend to people is that buy your name as your domain name. So if you never set up a website at all, it doesn't really matter. But if you go and you buy your name as a domain name, it means that down the line, if you want to set up a website, you've actually got ownership of your name. But the other thing that you could be doing, and this is an add-on to things, is that if there's something you really love and you want to write about it, with a domain name, you can set up your own blog and you can share that kind of information. Now, when it comes to actually putting stuff onto LinkedIn, if you're doing that kind of thing, you can be sharing your content from a blog into that space. And Emma suffers from the fact that she didn't buy her domain name as her name when she was a lot younger, and now can't get it. So I think, what is it, second-rate actress or something has shared Emma's name.
Actress in LA has bought it, which is really annoying.
So yeah, so just go and get that. It usually costs about £5. It's nothing very much. And the other thing is, and this is an ongoing thing, is Google yourself. See if anything comes up, and going forward, Google yourself and see if anything comes up, because it's a great way of seeing, you know, if you're having an impact, what people are saying, that kind of thing. But if you share your name with somebody famous, you'll probably get them instead. So, you know, these kinds of things are actually really useful. Emma, do you want to pick up on this bit?
Yeah, so we do these seminars quite a lot as we talk to teachers and we talk to students, and what we hear a lot is that Students will put up pictures of them in the park or in the pub with their friends. Don't do that. Try, if you can, to either get a headshot or get somebody to take a headshot for you when you're building your LinkedIn profile. Do use your real name. Do put your real email address in. Make sure that your email address is befitting of your LinkedIn profile rather than some random one that you had 20 years ago that was funny at the time. If you've got other social profiles like your Instagram portfolio, for example, pop that onto your CV. And just to reiterate what Kathy said, we are what we post. And got a personal example. My son is a video editor and he's really talented. He's great at all things tech. And a couple of years ago, he tweeted that he was feeling really inactive. And I screenshot this, and I normally use it in these presentations to show that first impressions of that person would be really lazy, not that interested, but actually the opposite is true. He works like a demon. So 2 seconds, just before you press return, think, do I want people to see this? And for me, the golden rule is, would I want my parents to see this? And if the answer is no, I don't post it.
Yeah. Always put this into action. So put the brain in before you put the fingers in, because it's when it goes the other way around that often we face difficulties.
And don't post when you're drunk either.
Yeah, so.
Shall I carry on with this?
Yeah, sure.
So personal brand, for me, personal brand is really, really important because it differentiates us in a sector. So from my aspect, there's more than a million social media managers in the world. It's really hard to make yourself known. So I have to build my personal brand and show potential customers what I stand for. So I live in Essex. I'm very Essex. I'm Essex through and through. So that's one of our brand values. Really helpful. So anybody, anytime can come to us and get some free advice. So I'm known for that. And I'm also known for other things, but let's just use those 2 examples today. So what I can do is I can be trawling social media and specifically LinkedIn to find groups where I think actually they're going to want an Essex girl in that group talking about social media. So I find groups where managing directors hang out, where people that run networking groups hang out, because I want my brand to spread far and wide quicker than I can do by myself. So do make sure that you go onto LinkedIn and research what groups you can hang out in. When people read my autobiography on LinkedIn and my about section, they're going to find more about me. They're going to find the things that I'm passionate about. And what I've done in mine, I put in keywords that help me stand out. So that's social media, it's networking, it's social media trends, it's support, it's training. So everything that I do in my day job, I've made sure that I include in my LinkedIn words. I've changed my LinkedIn settings to make sure that when anybody searches for me, on the right-hand side, they don't see other social media managers. So on LinkedIn, after this session, go onto LinkedIn and do a search and find somebody. And on the right-hand side, see if other people are listed. And if so, you can change your settings to make sure that doesn't happen to you, because you don't want people to go and find other people where you could do the job better. And on LinkedIn, it gives you a way of finding people that are in the sectors that you want to hang out in. So for me, Essex managing directors, I can use the filters and I can use the hashtag search to find people that potentially are going to be my next client. And then I can make a list and I can go and connect with them, and we're going to be talking about connection requests. LinkedIn make it really, really easy. There's, as I say, 27 million people in the UK on LinkedIn, and all of them are going to be people that you want to connect with. So be wise about, are they MDs? Are they recruitment managers? Are they HR? Are they personnel? You know, all of these keywords, go into the search bar, do your searches, make a list, and then go and reach out. To use an American term, it's all about reaching out nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that some of you may be more adventurous than others. Some of you may feel, oh, you know, that you want to hang back. And I think the thing is that it's hard perhaps when you maybe perhaps a little bit shy or something like that. But remember, when you're in this virtual space, you can be a little bit more brave. because it isn't necessarily full on face to face. But I think, you know, there will be groups on LinkedIn that are talking about things that you're interested in terms of your career and in terms of the areas that you want to work. So getting into those groups and finding out what people are talking about in those spaces will give you an awful lot more understanding and knowledge of what it's really like to work in those sorts of places. And then that kind of stuff stands you in good stead when you go in for an interview, you know, because it will give you ammunition for a really good set of questions that you can ask potential employers, so that they can see that you know what's going on and that you're really interested. So this is very much about giving you those skills to do what you're doing now, but also to move on to onto the next step after that. Okay.
So in my network, I've got about, I think, 13,000 people. I know that's not huge by an influencer standard, but you know, it is big enough. How I've done that is by leveraging other people's audiences. So I know that if I go to my local networking group, I'm going to see 20, 30 people. That's not enough for me. I want to be seen by the world. So social media is a brilliant tool to get us seen by a bigger audience and get ourselves known, like we say. What's really, really important though is when people find me, I want to give them a consistent message. So they're going to go onto Twitter and see that I'm based in Essex. I've got one son, I run a company, I'm a co-founder of this company. They go onto LinkedIn, they're going to get the same message. So start thinking about what it is you want people to see on your first impression. Is it that you're passionate about a certain thing? Is it that you've got a specific achievements and creds behind you? Like, what is it that's going to grab somebody's attention? We've only got a few seconds to make somebody follow us, so it's really important that we give a cohesive, consistent look and feel. So that same picture, same colors, same wording across all of your social.
Yeah, absolutely. Consistency builds credibility. That's one of the key things. Okay, and if there's ever anything that you don't want people to see, put the highest level of security around that. That's all I would say. But yeah, it's very much about keeping it consistent. And we will come on to this in terms of LinkedIn, but you do have the opportunity within LinkedIn to ask people for recommendations. So if you've done a really nice job for somebody, or you're working and doing something for somebody, connect with them on LinkedIn. And while you're in the process of doing that good job for them, say, would you mind leaving a recommendation for me? Because that's really going to stand you in good stead going forward.
That's a great point. And that doesn't need to be too hard. So my son, I mentioned, launched a website design company in, what are we now? Don't even know what day it is. July. We're in July. In November, our brain in lockdown. Lockdown's been like 100 miles an hour for us. But in November, so 6 months, and he's already got 5 or 6 really, really, really strong testimonials on his homepage. So somebody can get a really good impression immediately of the kind of people that he works in, the kind of work that he does. And what he did is, the minute somebody signed off on their project, the next email was, here's your invoice, and by the way, can you give me a review? I'd really appreciate it. And because I was so pleased at that time with his work, they were like more than happy to. So strike while the iron's hot. You know, if you've got a really positive experience with somebody, get your recommendation in there and then.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have a look at some practical bits and pieces here. Emma, when we go through, will you be okay to share your screen? Is that okay? So let's start thinking first of all about your home page on LinkedIn. So setting up a LinkedIn account, if you haven't done it already, is fairly simple. You put in your name and you put in an email address and you put in a password, and hey presto, you've got an account. And then there are processes you can go through, and they give you hints and tips and advice on what to do where, and we will do that with you here as well. But we need to actually make sure that our profile is really representing who we are. Emma mentioned photographs. Now, all of us, I reckon, have got a camera on our phone that's probably better than some actual cameras. So if you can get somebody to take a really nice photograph of you, it doesn't have to be super duper or anything like that. What you're looking for is just a headshot. Because that's how people then can start to make eye contact with you. So nice profile photograph, eyes facing forward, a little bit of a smile, absolutely fine. Just make sure there's nothing odd in the background, like a tree or something, because quite often it looks like it's growing out the top of your head. So keep it quite plain in the background. So we want people to see. There's nothing worse on a social platform when somebody says, you know, I want to be your friend, and all you can see is like a grey outline. You think, oh, who the heck is this? Something up close, and as I said, bit of a smile, bit of eye contact. The thing with the profile photograph on LinkedIn is that they want you to upload a square one. I think it's 40 pixels by 40 pixels. But then they turn it into a circle. So make sure there's nothing important in the corners, because they'll get cut off. Okay, and that will be the photograph that will sort of like follow you through as you go through. The header image on my one, it says, well, mine's actually changed a bit now from when I took this screenshot, but you can put anything you want. Don't leave it as the standard LinkedIn background, which is like a blue color with things that look like connections coming off it. You can use that to put a message in there. So enjoying life as a, or my first rung on the ladder of, you know, whatever it might be. And that background image can be changed as frequently as you want it to be. Because there will become a point where you know, probably you're going to be looking for to get the message across that I'm looking for a job, you know, so you need that kind of information going in there. What's in a name? A little hack in terms of LinkedIn. In this top section here, you can see it's got my name, and then it's got something around what I do, and then it's got underneath it, it's got a little bit of description about my sort of day job and what I do on a day-to-day basis. Now, each one of these sections is constrained by the number of characters that you can use. So this bit where I've got, for example, micro business mentor, I help you transform, etc. That's limited in terms of the number of characters that I can use in that space. So if I wanted to put in the fact that I'm a mentor, a trainer, a speaker, an author in there, it would cut into what I actually wanted to say in that section. So because I've got a relatively short surname, what I've been able to do in the surname field of when I set up my LinkedIn profile is actually put that extension in there in terms of what I do. And Emma, your one says social media, yeah, and trainer and various things like that. The other good thing is that then if people tag you in a post, that comes up as well. So you're hyperlinked back to your profile. So it actually works really nicely if you if you want to add in something there. So you know, digital or photography specialist or anything like that, you can pop something in there just to give people a bit more of a flavour of who you are and what you do. In your headline, so this is the bit, you know, where I've got micro business mentor. It doesn't have to be boring. You want to show maybe a little bit of personality. I don't know whether you can see what I've sort of sandwiched into the middle of what I've said on mine, but within there it says that I'm the chief cat cuddler. I'm a cat person rather than a dog person. And that's because when people get to know me, they know I'm nutty about cats, hence the picture on the wall behind me. Cats and pigs are my things. So that's very much in there. And Emma, you've got on yours, Essex girl, Buddhist. So, you know, it's very much about, this is who we are as people. And you know that saying, it does what it says on the tin. From our perspective, that's what this is about. There's no smoke in front of this. This is the people that they get when they engage with us. And this is very much what we want to do, is build that personality into what we're doing. So if you're passionate about something, if you love something, if you're proud of your location, if you know any of that kind of stuff, you can pop that in there. It doesn't have to be po-faced. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. Contact information. You know, part of doing this is to get people to connect with us, but also to contact us. And you'll be surprised the number of people who leave their contact information off. Now, you can choose what information that you put on there. And I would say that at the very least, you need your email address. And I would have an email address that is probably what I might call a businessy type one. So if you're going to use something like Gmail or Hotmail or anything like that, then I would just have your name at Hotmail or at Yahoo or whatever it might be. And that's what you'd have all of that kind of messaging coming through to. If you want a crazy one, just where you connect with your friends, and I have one where I just sign up for all these things online, because it means it doesn't get into my normal everyday email. You can have whatever you want. But I think in terms of this, have one that is your name, so that people can connect with you. If there's a phone number you don't mind people getting in contact with you on, you can include that too. Okay, but just make sure it's there, and that it's active. That's really quite important. And you get a lot of opportunity to share different things. So you can see here, it's got email, it's got a phone number for me. You know, we were saying earlier about perhaps having your domain name as your name, and maybe if you're interested in blogging or anything in particular, so any of you that might be interested in, say, visual arts or something, you might want a gallery style small website or something, you could actually include that in here too, because this is the kind of stuff that people will be looking at to gauge the kind of person that you actually are. So, you know, make use of all of the bits and pieces that are available there for you. And when you write the about section, please write it as you. I am, I do. This is what I think. It's not, you know, Emma wouldn't write it. Emma is the chief executive of a digital marketing agency based in Essex. That's old hat. That's old days. This is very much about you and who you are. So make it that way when you write about yourself. Anything you wanted to add in there, Emma?
No, it's all good. Thank you.
And okay, I'm going to pass over to you for settings.
Okay, so, do you mind?
Stop sharing.
No, share, but just press return.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, like I just said, there's lots of different things that we can do on LinkedIn to stop people finding other people that do what we do, but there's also ways that we can professionally stalk as well, without people knowing. So just a few things, and all of this is under the settings and privacy tab on LinkedIn. We can hide our connections. So I've built up, I think, 5,000 connections on LinkedIn. I don't want other social media managers to be trawling through my contact list, because I've spent the last, show my age now, nearly 30 years building up that connections. So I hide my connections. I hide other people like me, because if I've done the donkey work in putting all this good stuff out on LinkedIn, I don't want other people to go and find other social media managers like me. And really, really key, when I connect with people, I don't just press the connect button. I send them a little note explaining why I want to connect, because trust me, me and Kathy get 10, 20, 30, 40 requests a day of people wanting to connect with us, and they don't even bother telling us why they want to connect. You connect with them and then within 2 seconds they're trying to flog you something. So we don't do that, and we set ourselves apart by not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that yeah, one of the things about hiding connections is that you will get people wanting to connect with you because what they want to do is they want to hunt through your connections. So if you haven't hidden them, it's open season for them. That's a very simple press of a button. And yeah, the other, why on earth would you want to have other people that do what you do listed on your profile? You want to keep people there, and you know, if it's a potential employer, you don't want to send them over to other people. You want them to look at you and say, yeah, this is definitely the person I want to speak to. And yeah, we call it social media now, but when it first started, it was called social networking, and networking is about building relationships. And you know, you wouldn't walk up to somebody in the street and just say, do you want to be my friend? Because you'd probably get arrested. So when you do want to connect with people, do make sure you just say, look, I've seen your profile on LinkedIn. I found it really interesting because of, or I can see that you're doing such and such. Would you like to connect? And some people might say no. Very few do, but most people will be really gratified to get something from somebody who's taken the trouble to actually look at their profile. So you know, it's actually a really quite a nice thing to do. Did you want to show this in practice, Emma? Did you want to just show it on your profile?
Yeah, all good. Okay, so you just want me to do settings and privacy, Kathy?
Sorry?
Just the settings and privacy?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so this is on a desktop. It's going to look different on your mobile, your tablet. We always do major changes on desktop. It's much easier. So you go to the circle with your face in it, and you go down to settings and privacy. And this always changes, so you have to find where they've moved stuff. But effectively here, you've got who can see your connections. Well, nobody can see my connections, so that's good. No one's going to nick my contacts. Where I get my notifications, so I get mine on email. So they've changed this already. Crazy. Account access. Yeah, they've changed this since last week. Okay, so people also viewed. That's the bit where we don't want other people finding other social media managers. So I press no to that. And when I go and look at people,
I think that's under visibility. Is it the top one under visibility?
Yeah, when I go and search for people like managing directors in Essex to connect to, I don't mind that people see me, but I can change that to anonymous or somebody at a business or myself. So you've got options there. What you can do is you can go and stalk when you're anonymous, find out the information that you want, and then go and change you back to full profile. It's just a few different ways of looking for people without other people knowing. Basically, it's quite handy.
I always do that. So is that if I'm looking for somebody who does something in particular, or I want to find out something about somebody before I make an invitation to connect, send out an invitation to connect, I always put my profile into anonymous, because then they won't know it's me. That's just me being me. But I'm thinking about, you know, going forward, if you're wanting to find out about, you know, people that work in a certain company because you might be interested in, say, applying for a job to that company, or you know, you're getting the opportunity to do something in a particular organization. If you turn your visibility to anonymous, it means you can do quite a lot of mooching about in different people's profiles and various things without them knowing it's you. But always remember to go back and turn your visibility back on once you've stopped being that little bit of a stalker while you're on there. It's just it just means that it keeps you secret for a little while. So yeah, I prefer to do it. Emma is brazen. she doesn't mind, so she's out there all of the time. So yes, so I think those few things in terms of your profile, they're actually really quite crucial. The other side of things is that a lot of people who set up their LinkedIn profiles don't know these things, and they don't do these things. So if you do them, you'll be ahead of the game, most definitely. Okay, so what's changing? So I'll pull these things up here, Emma, first of all, for you to. Oh.
Brilliant. So I mentioned that LinkedIn got bought out by Microsoft a few years ago, and what that did, it changed LinkedIn from a place where you put your CV and told everyone how wonderful you were to a place where you built up conversations. And we hear a lot about algorithms, and how LinkedIn algorithm works nowadays is the more comments, likes and shares you get on a post, it tells LinkedIn to go and show that post to more people. So it has a spiral ripple effect. So you want to be creating content on your personal feed that's engaging, that inspires somebody to leave a comment or a like or a thumbs up, and for other people to share it. So you've got that viral opportunity like you do on Twitter, Instagram, etc. You can also search by hashtags. So I mentioned before about finding people that you want to work with. You can do that in the search bar, and you can do that by hashtag. And I'm going to show you these examples. You can now tag people. So whenever I do anything, I try and tag somebody, and it means that their network get notified, and it means that more eyeballs get onto my content. And just like on Twitter, and just like on your own website, you can now publish an article, like a blog on LinkedIn, and you can also go live just like you can on Facebook. So if I show you those in situ, I'm going to share my screen and give you some live examples of how this works. So this is on my profile. I'm just going to go to my posts and activity. And you see the kind of stuff that I've been doing to get conversations. So thinking about my brand values as a business, we are helpful, we are kind, we're very community focused, and we also like football. We're all about helping people and helping each other. So in my team, we work across the globe. We don't have strict rules on working hours. My team can work at 5 in the morning or at 5 at night, and I genuinely don't care. If my team needs to be off for doctor's appointment, whatever, if the kid is ill or the dog at the homework, if that comes first, it's the way that we run the business. So the other day I did a post. Come on, computer. Sorry, a bit slow. So it's slow when you need it to be fast. Okay. So I did this post, and this post was about when I had my son. My son's 19 now. I suffered quite badly, and I was speaking about the fact that one of my staff members' kids was ill, and she phoned up and said, like, Emma, I can't work because the kid's ill. And I said, not a problem, catch up later, it's absolutely fine. And her husband phoned his boss and told her, and the husband got a right earache, and they said, you know, don't you realise how busy we are and all of this? And he actually resigned a couple of weeks ago. So I put this post up talking about the fact that when my son was ill, so when my son was young, I was quite ill. I had postnatal depression quite badly. And every time the phone rang, I used to shake with fear. It was absolutely awful, and I couldn't work. And my bosses at the time wouldn't have been understanding to that, so I couldn't share. So I put this post up, but it's obviously quite a personal post, and I put in some hashtags, and I put in a picture of my son, and that got, 2,000 views, it got 50 likes, it got 8 comments, and that type of post will get engagement. Now, I'm not saying that we need to air everything in our lives, because that's not appropriate for some of us. I actually don't mind talking about that stuff, so I don't have an issue. But if I'd have just done a link post to, aren't we fantastic at 24 Fingers, that wouldn't have had the same impact, and it wouldn't have driven that same response. I do things like this where we do polls. I do things like the fact that Kathy and I are both official Facebook trainers, and that got 150 likes, 4,000 views, etc. So what I'm trying to do here is tell people a story about me. Not everyone's going to like me. Not everyone's going to think that they want to work with me. And that's okay. But what it does do, it gives somebody an impression of why they might want to work with 24 Fingers. And if that stuff resonates, then I'm the woman for them. So this is a fairly typical post. I did a poll about the fact that most people phone me up and go, Emma, I hate social media, but I know I've got to do it. So I did a poll about the fact that I created a guide on what to do when you hate social media, and 10 people liked it, 1,500 people saw it, and I think I've had 30 people download that guide. So I've got 30 leads now in my business that I can phone up and say, look, I know you hate social media, shall I just do it for you? That's the kind of way that I use LinkedIn. Where possible, I tag. So here, it's our 7th year birthday last week, so I've tagged all of these people and their network will now get notified. I write articles. I don't particularly go live on LinkedIn. I got rejected. You have to apply to be a live creator, and I got rejected. I don't know why. So what I do is I save my Instagram videos and my reels, and I pop them onto LinkedIn. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. In terms of what's going to work on LinkedIn, video, imagery, posts in that order across all of social media nowadays. It's people like videos and people like subtitled videos if you're thinking about creating those. So just a few ideas here. That's my personal brand. Kathy's going to be different. Yours is going to be different. But I would say on LinkedIn, it's about being authentic and it's about being real.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think the key thing is, and we've said it already, is about having an opinion about things. It doesn't have to be a bullshit opinion. It doesn't have to be shouty. It doesn't have to be any of those kinds of things. But, you know, if you are into ecology, or if you like a particular artist, or if there's a particular football team you support, or something like that, it's about showing you as a fully rounded human being. Because when you're in the workplace, most employers only use about 40% of you because they want your skills based, but they also want all of those added value things that you bring along as a human being, you know, your smiley face, or a helping hand, or the fact that you get on well with other people, or that you make other people feel comfortable. So what we call the soft skills. And this is where you can actually demonstrate that. It's also, I mean, I actually did some work many moons ago with somebody who was attempting to get back into the workplace after quite a long time after being made redundant. And one of the things that actually got them an interview was the fact that they loved gardening, and they posted about certain types of roses. And it happened to that the managing director of a company that they were interested in working for was an avid gardener as well. And they got into a conversation about gardening. Interestingly enough, the person got the job, but it wasn't, you know, like, hey, give me a job. They just started talking about flowers. So, you know, this whole thing about who you are as a person, and your drivers and the things that you love and like, don't be worried about sharing those out there. Obviously, you don't need to share the crown jewels, and nobody definitely needs to know what you had for breakfast. But, you know, it's that kind of thing is actually really quite useful. I suppose, are there, from where we've got to so far, are there any questions from people? Is there anything that you want to share or ask us, or anything that we've said that perhaps you think, oh, I'm not quite sure about that? Anything from anyone? If anything does crop up, you know, just pop it into chat.
Can I ask a question on, or Edwin's put a question in, so after that, if you can answer Edwin's question. But
Yep. Oh, okay, I see it. Yeah.
One thing I was going to say at the end is, I always got taught when I, you know, it's a long time since I was this age, but I always got taught you're more likely to get a really great job by approaching the business that you want to work with. And obviously, when I was doing this, you had to kind of drive down to EA Sports or FIFA, or, you know, Nike or whatever, you can't just rock up at their workplace. But with LinkedIn, you can target those people directly. You could find out who the marketing director of Nike is and think, I'd love to work for Nike, or I'd love to work for a football club, and everyone's dream jobs will be different. Because you talked about kind of, connecting with people, not really stalking them, but just how would you advise doing that? Because you can't really just say, "Gives a job," sort of thing, can you? So if you do want to work, you would like to get some experience with a specific company or work with them, how would you advise going about that?
We've got some stuff on that coming up, but just
Okay.
I suppose to preempt that, one of the things I would be recommending that you do is, if there's a particular sector that you're interested in, or a very specific company that you're interested in, what you would do is you would use the sort of searching functionality to find people who work for that company. I would be doing things like, if I found that Joe Bloggs worked for Acme & Co. and I wanted to work there, I'd be looking and seeing what Joe Bloggs was talking about in their posts and various things like that. I'd also be looking to see what groups on LinkedIn Joe Bloggs might be a member of, and I'd probably be looking at any of the hashtags that Joe might be using in his posts to see what he was interested in. Then I would make sure that what I was doing is I was using some of those same things only where it was relevant to what I was posting in the stuff that I was putting out. And then I'd also send Joe a personalised invitation to connect, and I'd say, Joe, I know we've not met, but I really love that post that you wrote about XYZ. Would you be interested in connecting here on LinkedIn? And then I'd see what kind of response I got from that. And usually it's a favourable response.
Yeah, so it's more of a softly approach. You start a conversation and then start discussing other stuff around things.
Yeah, things are built on relationships in employment and in self-employment. And so it's about building that relationship up. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about cold calling, and cold calling in any sense doesn't work. Warm calling does. So you make it warm by actually getting to know something about the person first. And so I think that's very much it. So you can use that anonymization of who you are to do a little bit of research, if we call it that rather than stalking, to find a list of people that you'd like to connect with, because you think, oh, that's the kind of company I'd like to work in. It can actually tell you whether it is the kind of company you want to work in as well, to be quite honest. That's another thing. But it then means that you can actually do some strategic connections. And I think that's the way I would go about it.
So it's picking a small number of people and starting conversation with them rather than firing out thousands of job messages.
Absolutely, most definitely.
I'll let you answer Edwin's post anyway.
So sure. Is there anything you wanted to add, Emma?
Yeah, I'm just going to add really quickly before we answer Edwin. My latest recruit came from a Facebook group. I noticed that somebody replied to say that she was a graduate. She was really keen to get social media experience. And I've got a thing about unpaid internships. I very much disagree with it. So we connected and said, look, it's a paid opportunity. And it turns out she lives in Canada. So for me, this was perfect, because now I've got people in Europe, England, Philippines and Canada. And the way that she approached the interaction, although she didn't come to me directly, she did her research before we had the Zoom call. She took the time and effort to check out my website. It was all very professional. So social media can open doors in a way that you might be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there used to be a thing about 6 degrees of separation. That number has reduced to about 3. So, there's definitely somebody out there who knows somebody that you want to know. So it is about building those relationships.
Can I answer Edwin's great question? So Edwin asked, where would we put the website if we had one in our profile, and is it worth spending money on LinkedIn Premium? So quick answer on the website issue. In the contact info box, you're going to have, I think, around 8 different boxes. So in one of them, put in your website. There's other places for your social media profiles, your phone number, your email address. And then the second question about, is it worth upgrading? I think LinkedIn Premium is about 50 quid a month now. I use the free version. There's so much prospecting that you can do with the free one. I don't see it's worth paying for the next one up. I've got better things to spend my 50 quid on.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%, that I've never found it a problem being able to do what I want to do on LinkedIn with the free version. I think the paid version works really well for recruiters, but it's not something that I would pay for. And the other thing, Edwin, as well about your website, yeah, list it in your contact info. But when you're posting, if you've got a website and there's stuff on there that's relevant to what you're putting into your post, then what you can actually do within the post itself is you can put a link back to the website or the page on the website that you want people to have a look at too. So you can use it actively within the content that you're sharing as well. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So I'll just go back to these slides, and please forgive the photographs, but I had to dig for some of the photographs back into annals of history, because Emma and I haven't been in a room with each other for nearly 2 years now, and she's coming to see me tomorrow and I'm quite giddy. Okay, so one of the things that I'd like you to do actually is just to take a couple of moments, if you don't mind, is just to think about who you are and what you do. Now, I always give this hint to people. When people say what they do, they quite often say what they are. So quite often somebody who is an accountant, when you say, what do you do? They say, I'm an accountant. Well, an accountant isn't what that person does. An accountant is what they are. What an accountant does is they help people pay the right amount of tax. So when you start thinking about your profile and your bio and anything that you write anywhere about who you are and what you do, the do bit is what is the outcome that you leave people with. So when you think about perhaps the jobs that you're doing at the moment, it's not the functionality of the job that you're doing that you are, it's what you leave people with after you've done it. So if you are doing, if you're editing photographs, for example, it's not editing photographs, it's creating beautiful images through, editing techniques or something like that. So do think about that when you actually write your bios and when you're putting your about sections together, because it's that end part rather than necessarily the functional. I'll put this on here and then I do this and then I switch that button and then I turn this off here. People aren't necessarily 100% interested in that, but they are interested to know what they're left with once you've done what you do. Okay, so just have a think about it. And one of the things I've done is I've sent over to Jenny a small workbook that we've put together that she's going to send out to you and to the people that perhaps are listening to the recording. And there are some of these exercises in there for you to do. They're actually a really great way to make sure that your profile is as active and engaging as possible. You'll see lots of really boring profiles on LinkedIn, I will say. It's not the most engaging one there. So has somebody put something into chat, Emma? Because I can't
just Mark.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, so let's just think about LinkedIn when you're specifically looking for a job. All right. And this comes back to what Mark was just saying there about, targeting specific organizations, specific companies, those kinds of things. in LinkedIn, you make personal connections with people, but also companies have company pages. And so in the personalized sections, this is where people are posting about themselves, their experiences, their work experience, what rocks their boat, those kinds of things. On the company pages, it tends to be like the company view. And my recommendation is that if there are particular companies that you are interested in working at, then go and follow their company pages, because you will see what the company line is on things. This is really brilliant if you end up getting an interview there, because, you know, you just throw in, oh, you know, when I was looking at your LinkedIn post on such and such a couple of weeks ago, I noticed this. That really, for anybody sitting in an interview on the other side of the table, think, oh, crikey, this person has done their homework. So, you know, look at the companies, look at the brands that you're interested in, follow their company pages. The other thing on their company page is it tends to list the people that work there. So that's how you can also then go and have a look and see, oh, you know, maybe I can connect with that person, they're head of their marketing department, or there's that person there who's head of product development or research and development or something like that. So you can actually use that. You get a really good feel for what the company is about and how they interact from what you see on their company page, but you get just as much from seeing what their employees post as well. So it's a really good idea to get that balance. It's interesting what Mark said about being outside a place of employment. Many years ago, when I used to do stuff with people who are on the looking to get a job, one of the things that we used to do physically was go and sit outside places where they wanted to work and see what the staff looked like when they were leaving work. Did they look happy? Did they look sad? You know, because it gives you a much clearer picture of what that place might be like as a workplace when you can observe that. But you can actually see that now in social places. So connect with those people, join the LinkedIn groups that focus on the topics that you're interested in or the workplaces that you're interested in. And don't just be a lurker. Do be active. If somebody posts something and you think, actually, I agree with that, or actually, I disagree with that, or actually, I can offer another bit of information to back that up, then share it. Because that's a way of actually getting yourself noticed and seen. As Emma said, you know, her member of staff who's based in Canada, that's precisely how she got the job, is that they saw each other within a group, and that conversation started, and, you know, one thing led to another. So, you know, it's don't hold yourself back. And yeah, make sure you use the search function to make the lists of the interesting people, and maybe not just interesting in terms of, oh, I'd like to work there, but interesting because you think they've had experience in that sector. They might not even be doing that thing anymore, but actually they've had experience of it. It'd be really interesting to see whether they could share some of that experience with me.
As an employer, I find approaches in so amazing. I'm always really pleased when somebody takes the time to email me to say, look, here's what I'm doing. Could we have a chat? Because so many people don't. So when I see somebody taking the gumption and taking the bull by the horns and reaching out, it's really, really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single time. I mean, my business, I outsource. I don't actually physically employ anyone, but I still do get people contact me saying, I'd really be interested in that. So what I do is I just say, look, here's some advice. I can't employ them because I don't have employees within my company, but I do give them as much help and support as I possibly can. So, you know, don't be, what do they say? Don't be backwards in coming forwards. I think that's the crucial point. Okay. What I would really like you to do is just to take a couple of minutes, if you can, just use your phone if you want to. Just pop, if you've got LinkedIn on your phone, is to pop on there and see who might be working in the organisation that that you're interested in. You won't be able to do this if you haven't set up a LinkedIn profile yet. But I think that this is definitely something that you can do after this session if you haven't set up your LinkedIn profile yet. But come and find us and come and send us an invitation to connect if you want to. But just take a couple of moments to think about what you might actually write if you were going to send somebody a connection, send one of those people a connection. And in the meantime, I'll just take that off. If you've got some questions for us, I'm going to pop my LinkedIn profile into there for you as well. Okay, so come and find us and say hi. Have any of you started to make connections on LinkedIn yet? No. Hopefully this will give you the impetus to do it and get you. It's a really I think it's one of the most underrated social platforms that there is. It doesn't get the attention that all the jazzy ones get, but actually in terms of employment and, you know, definitely in terms of running your own business, it's a brilliant place to be. So I would definitely recommend that you get working on there, because it could be your leg up into the next part of your career.
When I finished my degree, it was we had to all set up our own LinkedIn profile, and then we could add our lecturers and like our course mates.
And have you kept it active, Ellie?
Yeah, actually, the reason why I've got the job I've got at the moment is because I was in contact with one of my previous lecturers who taught my boss.
Brilliant.
Excellent. That's an endorsement, if nothing else is. So yeah, and it's there's that old saying, isn't it? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. And LinkedIn sits very much within that kind of thing. And remember, you're building a network and you're building it over time. At the moment, it's very new. Okay, but imagine in 10 years' time, you've got all of these connections sitting behind you. There may well be somebody that you knew 5-10 years ago that you need to dive back into and say, look, I need some advice on this. I need some help on this. Or, you know, can you give me, you know, when you're the managing director, can you give me a list of 10 people that I could interview? So, you know, there's that going forward as well. So I think one of the things, never let the grass grow under your feet. One of the things I would say is right after this, set yourself up a profile, get in there, and just, even if you just connect with a couple of people that you know already, it will be the first step in the right direction. Okay, so let me just go back to, where's my screen gone? Here we go. Okay, so being active on LinkedIn. Emma, do you want to pick up on this one?
Yeah.
Oh.
We have to, you know, we have to say what we believe in, rather than just going, here I am and I'm wonderful and this is what I do. It's more about championing stuff that floats our boats. So that might be mental health awareness, that might be creative excellence. Anything is good, but you need to stand up for what you believe in. Try and think about what's going to get somebody to comment, like and share. So people love to talk about themselves. Polls are brilliant in that way. Think about what's going to encourage a response. Tag people if you can. So tag your bosses, tag your colleagues, tag the people that you admire. And when people do reply to you, make sure you reply to them, because that shows the algorithm that you're social, and that will get your post seen by more people.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the LinkedIn algorithm is that when LinkedIn first started, it was purely a chronological space in terms of what you posted. Now the algorithm means that your posts with the greatest engagement sit at the top. So the more you can get people to do things or interact with you, the better it is. You know, asking questions, as Emma said, you know, people do like to share their opinions. So ask questions, have calls to action. How would you do this? Have a poll, you know, all of those kinds of things. You can use alt tags and things on your images, but you can actually tag people behind the images as well. So you don't necessarily have to put them into the text of the post, but they'll get a notification that they've been tagged, and they can then go in there and comment. And you can actually, and Emma and I have done this in other things that we've done in the past, is we've alerted our network to the fact that we might be talking about something, and could they go in and like and share and comment on it, because we need that thing to get a little bit more traction in terms of people. So, you know, you can make that happen too. Do you want to take on recommendations as well, Emma? Oh, you froze a little bit there.
And don't be shy. And in my experience, whenever I've asked for a recommendation, I've got it. It's all about picking your timing. And what normally works for me is if I tell them what I want them to say. So I might turn around and say, look, do you mind giving me a recommendation? It'd be great if you covered these 3 things. And typically they'll just write back and go, yeah, that's fine, I'll just do that. And they copy and paste what I've written and they put it on their profile. We need recommendations to show the people that don't know us how great we are, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Emma said, ask before they've had a chance to sort of fly off and do whatever it is. So when you're still engaged with them, in a sense, is to ask for that. Yeah, people do want to know that you're a nice person, but they also want to know what you actually did. So yeah, and that thing that Emma said, I quite often I ask people for recommendation, and I say, and could you write something like this? And I'll send them a paragraph, and more often than not, that's the paragraph that appears as the recommendation, because they're busy, so they just copy and paste it, and it's brilliant. It says exactly what I wanted them to say. But yeah, the give as well as receive is actually really quite important. So don't just expect them to come to you. So, you know, if for example, where you are at the moment, there's one of the team members you might be working with or something, you think, they've been so helpful to me, they've been really good. It'd be nice to go onto their profile and say, you know, so and so and so and so helped me, I had this problem and this is how they helped me solve it. That's actually really lovely too. So don't just expect them to come in, make sure that you give them as well. Okay. And I can see on my recommendations there, you see, I've given 12 and I've only received 10.
I didn't used to ask for recommendations, and now I just don't care. I'm very like, right recommendation, right review, and I don't mind asking anybody. So if you've enjoyed today, Kathy and I would also like another review, and I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't ask for that, because I need to practice what I preach.
Exactly. So what I want you to do now, and actually what I'd like you to do in the chat function, is just do a quick fingers on the keyboards thing, and just let us know about 3 things that you might be able to write about in a post. You know, it doesn't have to be war and peace. It doesn't have to be a cure for a dreaded disease or anything like that. But just think about 3 things that, in terms of the job that you're doing at the moment, or in terms of what you're learning in the work that you're doing at the moment, just 3 things that you think people might find interesting. You know, I always think about when people are doing the kind of things that you are, it makes me think of that thing, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Not that anybody's wimpy or a kid, but it's like, you know, this is the 3 things I wish I'd known before I started doing such and such. So just pop some things into the chat section that that you're interested in, particularly with regard to the work you're doing at the moment, that you could write something about? And also any questions, if you've got any questions for us.
We'll task Mark with that too, actually.
Absolutely. What are going to be your next 3 posts, Mark?
Good question. That's why I get Jenny to do them.
Oh.
You're not allowed to say that.
Well, yeah, when you own the company, you have to employ people to do stuff, don't you? So
Do what you do best and outsource the rest.
It's true.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of the things that I do badly.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be really good if people could share that sort of stuff, because
Yeah, it would be nice.
everyone does have do give expertise. They don't realise that they can write this stuff and get it down, or it might not be even writing it. It might be just creating a vlog or those sorts of things. Nowadays, some people don't feel comfortable writing, or videos are more engaging, aren't they? So they might just, create content via video.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As Emma said before, you think about the hierarchy. It's video, static image, text. So if words aren't your thing in terms of, say, writing paragraphs and things, if you can create a really nice eye-catching video, I mean, there's so many apps you can use on your phone to do this. You don't need anything spectacular that you can post up that gets your message across. That's ideal. The only thing I would say about video is that always have captions on it, because most people look at video with the sound off. So if you're trying to get a message across, it's good to have words on the video. So that would be ideal.
Edwin, I'm loving your comments. So Edwin's sharing that he wishes he knew a bit more about education, but he feels like he could write more about what's lacking rather than what's good at the minute. But I don't think it applies to your current employer strategy. Yeah, so there's a fine balance between being controversial and getting yourself kicked out of a job. What I'd love to see, Edwin, on your profile is an article about the current challenges in education. And, if you were education minister, what would you change? So obviously supporting your employers and not saying anything that's going to get you sacked, but showing yourself as somebody that's got opinion and thought and has taken the time to look at this. That's brilliant. Sorry, that's it. Yeah. And then Ellie, I think this whole thing about work-life balance and mental health support, so timely. And you could do that in a number of ways. You could talk about your personal experience of what you've viewed so far in your career and what you see as the challenges. Again, what you think makes good mental health support. So in my organisation, for example, at Christmas, everybody was given the opportunity to talk to one of our expert coaches in my network, free of charge, for as many sessions as they want. And the value of that, we're talking in the thousands, but actually it's not about what the monetary value was, it was about the difference that would make in somebody's life. So I absolutely advocate all of that, and you'll find that more employers are also supporting that, because they know that a happy worker is going to be more productive and the company's going to be more profitable as well. Yeah, Olivia, yeah, please do feel free to talk on camera. That'd be great to hear from you.
Okay, I've just unmuted myself. Can you hear me? Is it working?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Hi. I just wanted to ask kind of what everyone, particularly of the other kind of Kickstarters on the chat as well, does anybody actually find LinkedIn useful? I know this might sound like a bit controversial, but as we've just been chatting, I've clicked on LinkedIn and had a bit of a scroll through and looked at my feed and everything. And I can't help but notice a lot of it seems to be, for me, it's way too similar to Facebook. It's just like another form of social media. And that's not really what I want. I want to be able to sort of find a job or find something that's actually inspiring content. And the vast majority of it seems to be people saying, I've just passed university, graduated from university with these amazing grades. Look at this amazing job I've just got. Look at this amazing promotion I've just had. It's like a really boasty echo chamber of, and then like really sycophantic comments of people, because you know how it's all about conversation and stuff. People will just, you know, type on things, oh, it's so inspiring. And it's kind of, I don't know, but personally, it's probably just me finding this. But when I log into LinkedIn, I really struggle to engage with it, and I struggle to be active on it because of the nature of the platform. It seems too similar to social media, and then also it's kind of very much it's very kind of performative. Everyone's only showing like the best wonderful side of kind of what's happening. I don't know, I see Martha's just put, I don't like the LinkedIn feed, I just use it to look for jobs, which is really useful. Yeah, I completely agree. I hate the feed, it's so boasty.
So I'll answer that. So LinkedIn is the new Facebook, and we wrote a blog about that. But I would say filter the stuff that you don't want to look at, because there are a lot of people slapping themselves on the back and saying how wonderful they are. You will find inspiring content. You might need to search for it. You might need to follow specific people. You might need to go into groups. There is good stuff on there. But there are also a lot of people that don't know what they're doing on there as well, which is true of every social media platform.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll throw in there as well is that your feed is based on the people that you're connected to. So hit the unfollow button and build a set of connections of people that are sharing the kinds of things that you want to hear about in the way that you want to hear about them. And I think that the other thing about it is that there is a tendency to think that the number of people that you're connected to is somehow an indication of how effective your profile is.
When you first join, sorry to interrupt, but when you first join it, as you're building up the profile, I remember doing it, and it kept putting this emphasis on, you haven't got enough connections, make more, you need at least 30. And the emphasis was all on the numbers. And so I have got very little like real world job experience. So I'm in an internship now as part of the Kickstarter scheme, which I'm absolutely loving. But prior to that, I'd done 1 5-month internship and then like bar work basically. So in terms of my connections, they're all just my fellow uni grads, people that I went to university with, because you know, it is all about who you know. And realistically, I can, you know, honestly admit I don't know that many people.
And that's what I was saying earlier about being perhaps a bit strategic about it and going out and finding people that you don't know yet, who you can invite to connect. You can send an invitation to connect to, telling them why you'd like to connect. You know, I'm really interested in what you're saying, what you're doing, those kinds of things. And the key with anything on social, on any platform is engagement. People think it's numbers, but it's not. It's engagement, and it's better to have fewer people that you engage with. What you don't want, and this is the other thing, is you don't want everybody who always says the same thing or totally agrees with you on absolutely everything, because that's just as vanilla as the people that are saying, oh, you go girl. I can't stand that. That kind of
it's
stuff.
really vanilla.
So you do want a little bit of I won't say contention, but you do want people that have differing opinions. But what you will find is that when you're at very early stages, you'll have people around you, you'll get connected to people because you knew them at university, or maybe you knew them at school or whatever. But actually, as you go further forward, it's about being proactive in who you're connecting with people who you see are saying interesting things, doing interesting things, working in interesting places. So you start to, so it's less about sitting back and letting people come and connect with you, and you being a bit more assertive, going out and connecting with them, and then using the unfollow button to take people off that you don't want to follow anymore.
I follow quite a lot of companies that I'm interested in, and I find that element of LinkedIn is quite good because it then suggests similar companies. You can get on a bit of a kind of stream of thought, and you can keep going.
A role, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So on the company side, I think that's fine. It's the people side that I find a bit more difficult.
Maybe
you know, unless it's maybe like,
Olivia, is go into the companies that you're interested in and see the people that are working there, have a look at their profiles and see if there are any interesting people there, you know, you like what they're saying or how they're saying it, and then reach out to them to connect, because then you've got a double whammy. You're following the company for the company line, if you will, and then you're following some of the people who have got the real world experience of actually working in that organization. And the two things don't always match. Okay, is that okay? But I think, you know, it's very much, it's a bit like our friendship pools generally, you know, with some of the people that are sitting around us in a way.
Just a quick one to add to that, and on the content that people are creating and writing something, just a simple one people could do is, as Olivia just discussed there, what's going great about your Kickstart program? You know, I'm enjoying this, I've learned that. One of the things that we'll be encouraging you to do at the end of the program is get a list of all the things you've learned, the courses you've been on, all the mandatory training that you do is all certified, all assessed. So you can say, I've been on a course on communication, I've been on a course on this, I've been on a course on delegation. You know, it's really, really useful things that when an employer looks at you, it's virtually an online CV. And then you could have written an article on how you used your Kickstart internship or work placement or whatever you want to call it as a really positive springboard for your career. What you won't realize is, you know, old people like me, I've been speaking to similar old people like me, and the amount of people that said, oh, I started on something like this back in the 80s or the 90s or before. So loads of people started on a scheme like this, and now they run their own business, or they're senior managers, or, you know, they're doing pretty well. So, you know, detail that stuff, and like Emma says, try not to slag off the bits of your employers that you don't like, because they might be watching your LinkedIn profile too. And also future employers will look at that and say, you know, well, they seem like I don't want to get slagged off on social media by my employees. So
yeah, I think it's a fine line to say, you know, I did a communication skills course. These are the things that I learned. It would have been nice if I could have learned this as well. So you're not saying it was bad or that something was missing. It's about how you do that expression of things. And our viewpoint is, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything. Generally, but it doesn't mean you can't critique things. I think that's the other side of it. But all of this accumulates, all of it does. And as we said right at the beginning about Googling yourself, one of the platforms that Google really puts a lot of credence in is actually LinkedIn. So often when you do Google somebody in, say, in a workplace situation, it will be their LinkedIn profile that will come up first in that search. And so potential employers will be Googling you. That's something to be aware of. They may not really be allowed to, but they probably are. I think that's something to be aware of. So and that sort of comes on to this bit that we wanted to come on to about being wise online. And Emma said before about her son Lewis, and somebody might have got a wrong impression of him. I mean, that boy works every hour that God sends. I mean, he didn't get to sit his A-levels, so he set up a business. You know, he really does. And if somebody saw that tweet, they might think, you know, he's a bit of a laid back, sort of up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon kind of guy, and he's not. So we do need to be sensible of that. Okay. So
So we'll run through this because we're conscious of your time. We mentioned it before, but think about, would your employers be happy to see your post? Would your mum and dad be happy to see what you've posted? Employers will be checking you out. Please don't think they aren't, because they are. It's the first thing that I do when I get a CV. I go out on social media and check the person's name and see what type of stuff they've been posting, whether it's controversial. I once had one of my staff rejected for a job with a new client because I went on her Instagram and they thought that her posts were too racy. So
racy, not racist. Let's put it that way. They were a little bit ooh la la. Let's put it that way.
A bit risque, so they didn't get the job. So be aware. They're building up a picture without even knowing you, and that's sad, but it is true. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, you know, when you go for a job interview, remember the numbers. The more people being interviewed, the smaller the percentage opportunity or chance you have of actually getting that thing. So 4 people being interviewed, you've got a 25% chance of getting it. And usually by the time you get to an interview, they know that you can do the job, so the interview itself is double checking all of those other things, that other 60% of you that make you the human that you are. So if they've got that and they've got this stuff that they can see online, those are the sorts of things that are going to help them make decisions going forward.
You don't need to share, we've mentioned it in the session already, you don't need to share anything that you're not comfortable with, you don't need to overshare. Sometimes TMI, you don't need to do that, and not everything in your own life needs to be posted. So think about the kind of stuff that you want to post, and the reason why is it to build your profile, is it to build your network, have an end goal. Everyone knows this now, I think, but be password safe, and Kathy mentioned earlier, make sure your security settings are correct for what you want people to see and what you don't want them to see. I'm somebody that's, you know, I don't mind anybody seeing anything because I'm quite an open person. Other people I know have got everything shut down. So just see where you are in terms of that barometer. Yeah,
and just a bit of thing about passwords, change them regularly, and don't have them all the same. And definitely don't have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Or password.
Exactly. Yeah, we just thought we'd pull up a few things here that are, it can impact. You know, we're not hiding the fact that it can have an impact on what happens in your job. I mean, Ollie Robinson and his cricket career was seriously impacted earlier this year when somebody sat on Twitter and went back through 10 years worth of his Twitter posts to find some stuff. So, you know, that was impacted. Over the weekend, this guy, Lewis Hughes, sorry Emma, he's from Romford in Essex. He's now been sacked from his job because of this incident with Chris Whitty in the park over the weekend. So what we want you to be safe online. We want you to protect yourselves as much as you possibly can. If things start to get a bit too noisy for you, we want you to be able to switch it off. But on the other side of it, we also want you to be aware and wise that, you know, that thing that Emma just said about too much information and things like that. Keep it relevant. I think that's the crucial point. And if you're using any platform where it's just you and your mates with a bit of what in Essex they call bants, then maybe keep your profiles private. I think that's that would be the most crucial thing. Yeah, so
when you do get a brilliant job, don't go on social media and criticise the company. Don't do that. There's been so many people that have done that, and weirdly, all the examples I found were from people from Essex. That one's from Cisco in the UK, in the US. But yeah, basically, people like me, we run monitoring programs, so we know when people mention this. So don't do that. You wouldn't, but don't do that. But do the next slide instead. Use social media for good. So Captain Tom Moore, Marcus Rashford, you know, brilliant examples of where social media had a groundswell of support and raised awareness and raised money and changed lives. Do that instead.
Yeah, I think the thing is that bad news makes good press. But what you can actually do with your social is that you can support causes that are dear to your heart. You can support others that you feel need a little bit of a helping hand. You can share your experiences and your knowledge, because that might help others coming up behind you. It doesn't have to be controversial. It doesn't have to be any, but it has to be, I suppose, helpful, informative, and a piece of you. I think that's the most crucial part of it. And I'll leave you to do the pitfalls once you get the workbook. But I think we've got tiny little bit of time. If there are any sort of last minute comments or questions or anything anybody wants to share.
And did you find that helpful? Do you think that's going to aid you?
There's a really good question on there from Emily.
Yeah, I was just typing in to reply to that, but I'll voice it. So video games professionally amazing, Emily. So yeah, again, I'd be talking about that in an article and saying, how that helps you professionally, and try and spin that to, this is what I do in my spare time, but actually the benefits it's given me is X, Y, Z, and I'm taking those into the workplace, and that's helped my employer because of X. Yeah,
it's related to a question I was going to actually ask. Most of the people that we've interviewed, and a lot of these fantastic young people that are getting these opportunities and grasping them, they all seem to have a side hustle or want to have a side hustle in something that they're passionate about, which is great, and so on and so forth. What's your opinions on those sorts of things? Because they might have a side hustle in sustainable fashion or something, but it's not related to their job. Or
I started my first business as a side hustle. So yeah, working full time and running a business on the other side. So 2 full-time jobs basically. I work a lot with people who are side hustlers, who are looking to transition from employment into entrepreneurship, and I think that you learn great skills as a side hustler or running a business on the side of employment. More often than not, it isn't anything to do with what you're doing in the day job. It's to do with what you're passionate about. But it teaches you so many things that you can then bring into the day job. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with actually using that experience to showcase who you are and what you do. As we said, your profile is you. It's who you are. It's holistically you. It's not just you as me being employee. This is me being me. And so I think that you will learn skills and you will understand things differently by running something on the other side of work. So don't hesitate to share that, because actually every skill you develop, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's doing something for yourself, it all becomes intrinsic to who you are. And as Emma said, the idea of doing video game stuff on the side, it can only help enhance what you do if you're working in visual media. There's no question about that. Running a sustainable fashion business, you might think, oh, what's that going to do? It will teach you things like customer care. It will teach you communication skills. It will teach you time management skills. All of those kinds of things are part of what you would be doing if you were doing something else on the side, even if it was nothing whatsoever to do with what you did on a day-to-day in the workplace.
The thing I'd say from an employer's perspective is, when you're posting about it, just to allay the employer's concerns. An employer's concern would be that you're not going to be focused on your main job. So just as long as you can allay that concern and say, look, in my spare time, I do this, because you can be more than one thing. One thing you don't realize when you're young is how much time you've got. When you've got 3 kids and 2 businesses and all these other responsibilities, you think, what did I do with all this spare time? I didn't earn extra money in my side. My video gaming definitely didn't pay me, and those sorts of stuff. So yeah, promote it, but just allay the employer's fears. So address that before they can even question it, I would say.
I always say to people as well, be straight up and be clear with them and let them know what you're doing. And if there is, say, a crossover in terms of what you do on the side as to what you do in the day job, make sure that you speak to the HR department and say, look, I'm doing this stuff on the side. This is my own thing, but it's not going to impact on me in terms of the day-to-day activity. But if there is a connection, one of the things I would also do is make sure that you get in writing from the HR department that there is no conflict of interest in terms of what you do in your side hustle as to what you're doing in your day job, because it's always better to be straight up and upfront in terms of what you're doing.
Okay. Cool. So I hope you found that of value, and I hope that's given you some practical tips that you can take into your career. And do connect with us. We'd love to follow your posts, and we can share and comment and encourage you as well.
Yeah, and if you've got any questions for us, if you come and find us on LinkedIn, you can ask us those that way as well. So yeah, it would be lovely to connect with you and to see your journey as you go forward in your careers.
And just before I formally thank both of you, just a couple of points to everyone while they're on. You know, as you've said, you might not find this the most useful platform for you at the moment because, you know, you're very early stages, but you might be using this platform for the next 40 years. You know, who knows what the future brings. But, you know, I remember when it came in when I was probably about your age and someone said, oh, you want to get on LinkedIn? It's really useful. I was like, you know, that'll never catch on. Can't see social media. And I remember saying, oh, I didn't see Facebook as going anywhere and stuff like that. So it proves you can be completely wrong about these things and so on and so forth. So, you know, start to practice at this early age, get used to it, and it'll be really useful in your career going forward. As we've said, you know, put down on your CV and on, you know, your LinkedIn is virtually your online CV, isn't it? So list what you're doing as part of the training on the job and the training that we're sending through to you as well. Please log on to the other webinars as well, because, you know, as you've hopefully seen from this one, they're really, really good. So try and log on to them live. We do email you. We do email your employers. So they're really good. And if you haven't caught them or can't catch them live, then find them on the YouTube channel afterwards, because we email that out afterwards. And yeah, I hope you found it really useful, and, you know, feel free to engage with us and any questions and so on and so forth. And mostly I hope you're enjoying your experience with the employers. We've tried to find good employers, and we've tried to encourage them to create really good you know, placements, internships, roles, whatever you call it, for yourselves, and I hope you're enjoying them.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day and have a brilliant weekend.
Yeah. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Emma. I thought that was brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.